Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Hello friends, welcome to Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University, Ahmedabad. Myself, Dr. Vinod L. Desai, Associate Professor, PG Department of Computer Science and Technology, Vidyanagar. In today's sessions, we will talk about various internet terminologies including www, domain name systems, how web browsers and web server works, how distributed web server works, various internet service providers and their services, and at last we will talk about cookies. So let's talk about World Wide Web, that is known as www in short. In today's, everybody talks about this World Wide Web. So what does it mean? So simply it is a web, is an internet based service which uses common set of protocols or programs, standards to help or to allow the users to access various kinds of data over the network in the form of hypertext or other standard formats, which is commonly standardized by the international community. It was proposed by Tim Berners-Lee in 1991. That means the World Wide Web was proposed by Tim Berners-Lee in 1991. The internet is the collections of physical networks of computers across the globe or world. The World Wide Web, or simply we can say web, is a collection of electronic documents called web pages that are linked together like a spider web. Whenever we are talking about World Wide Web, that means it is a collection of various hyperlinked documents which were developed using a particular language, and that's why it is called web pages. Okay, so World Wide Web allows to access various hyperlinked documents through the internet. These documents are stored on a computer called servers located geographically somewhere in the world, somewhere around the world as well. World Wide Web is a virtual network of these websites connected by hyperlinks. These websites contain text pages, digital images, audio, videos, or any other kind of data. So websites may have any kind of data in terms of text, videos, audio, or any other kind of format as well. So it's a part of the internet. So simply if we have to define World Wide Web, that means it is a part of internet. When we are talking about internet and when we want to have a URL kind of mechanism, then www allows us to access the internet or websites of a particular organizations. The World Wide Web is a way of exchanging information between computers on the internet, binding them together into a vast collections of interactive multimedia resources. It is a hypertext interface to internet information resources. So after we can say learning or getting the clarity regarding the www, it's simply a part of internet which allows us to access the internet services using a hypernet or hyperconnected documents. Then HTTP is there. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It is also part of internet. That it is a universally accepted protocol for transmitting the document over a network in the form of web pages. The prefix HTTP in the URL designates the protocol being used for communication. The HTTP protocols is used to access hypertext documents on the World Wide Web. HTTPS is another form of HTTP. Here S stands for secure. So HTTPS is the acronym of Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. This indicates that the web pages has a special layer of encryption added to hide your personal data or information or passwords from other users who are existing or accessing data over a network. Whenever you log in to your online link, bank account or any other account or a shopping cart system where you enter your credentials, that is going to be hidden from the other users. Next term is URL. After www and HTTP, another important term of internet is URL. URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator, or we can say it is a address of a particular website. In simple terms, whenever we want to have an address of a website, we simply ask what is the URL of a particular organizations or a reference to a particular data. So it's an addressing scheme or mechanism that is used on the internet to locate resources or services on the World Wide Web. Basically, the URL is the address of any website, we can say, that exists on a server. So through server, we can access that website using the URL. URL consisting of various parts. URL consisting of various or three parts generally. The first is protocol, second is host name, and third one is file name. As we know that protocol is a set of rules which is used while accessing any website. So generally the HTTP is a standard protocol used with the website or URL. Then after the host name is there, from where we are going to access the data, or we can say it's a name or the website. The host or top level domain frequently ends in .com, .net, .edu, .organization or any other, in one of many others that have been officially recognized. File name is the name of the page. That is what a user wants to access. Examples, or we can say the format of the URL, something like this: http://www.website.com/homepage. Web browser. So what is web browser? So simply we already know that it is a program or software which enables users to access the internet. So if you want to have the access of an internet, we need to have a web browser. So web browser enables users to access the internet services. So in the web browsers, there will be a, we can say, address bar. In an address bar, user can enter the URL of any of his interest and access the data from that URL. Examples of web browsers includes Microsoft Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Netscape Navigator, Mozilla Firefox, etc. Navigating through the pages of website is termed as web browsing or surfing. Next is web page. What is web page? So simply, web page is nothing but a document which is designed and developed using a particular language. So there are various languages used for designing the web pages. Among that, the most common is the HTML. So HTML is also a standardized language which is used for designing the web pages. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Web pages can contain text, audio, video, image, or even links to another web pages. Often you can click or tap on a specific area of web page to expand the information or move to a related web page. Website. The next terminology is the website. As after discussing the URL, web page, we can come to define the website. So what is website? So simply put, website is a collection of web pages. If you are having more than one web pages and if you combine them or hyperlink them with each other, then we can say that we are having a simple website. So it refers to a collection of web pages usually written in markup languages. For example, www.google.com refers to the website of Google having com as the domain name. Websites can be understood as a location on the World Wide Web that holds the resources that people can request whenever required. So it's one we can say that it is a location, okay, from where the people can access the data from the server. Website is one or more web pages belonging to a particular company, organizations, or any institution or government organization as well. The first page is called home page, which acts like a index indicating that content on this site. From the home page, you can navigate to another page forth and back. After the website, now what is web server? So as we know that what is web page, what is website, now based on that we can define web server. So in we can say hierarchy, if we have to define that to have a website we need to have a web page. Now to have a web server we need to have a website. That means web server contains more than one websites. So websites are usually hosted on a computer, which is known as web server. So a web server is a computer that stores web pages and is responsible for accepting requests from users or clients and serving them with a requested web page. Some important web server programs are IIS and Apache. A web server is provided with a unique address which is required to access the content of the website. The unique address is the identifier for the server and is termed as IP address. Next terminology is the ISP, very important, Internet Service Provider, who are responsible for providing the network service. So attaching directly to the real internet requires some very expensive communications equipment and communication lines, well beyond the reach of most commercial enterprise. The connection is therefore made by a third-party company called an Internet Service Provider. So as we know that to have direct establishment of such communication devices and other internet service devices is very costly, and it is beyond the reach of our general organizations. So such kind of services is provided by the internet service providers. When you connect to the internet, you are in a reality connecting to the ISP's network, which then transparently routes your request through the internet using their communication equipment. They are basically the organizations responsible for providing internet connections to the subscribers. Several ISPs provide space on their web servers for hosting websites of the subscribers. They also provide services like email services, web hosting services, domain registration, browser and software packages. An ISP offers a variety of services for a variety of prices: web page access, email, web page hosting, and so on. Most ISP provides various internet connection speeds for a monthly pay. You may choose to pay more for a higher speed internet connections if you like to stream or access stream videos, or select a less expensive package if you use the internet mostly for light browsing and email. Next term is HTML. As we know that web pages are developed using the HTML. So HTML is a hypertext markup language used for designing the web page. HTML can be understood as a subset of HTML, stands for Standard General Markup Language. When we are talking about markup language, that means it generates a document. It is not required to compile such kind of languages. It is directly generating a document. HTML is a plain text but with extra bits that describes the fonts, colors, size, etc. of text and the positioning of images. So it simply contains text, but along with text we can design text, we can format the text, we can highlight the text. So all kinds of mechanism we can provide using the HTML, using its tags. One of the challenge of web design is ensuring that this HTML produces the desired results for our visitors regardless of the size of their screen, the type of browser, the type of computer, and which fonts etc. they have installed. So this is our biggest limitations or we can say challenge whenever we are dealing with the unknown required persons who wants to access our web pages of such kind of requirements. Images used on web pages are not part of an HTML file. The HTML file simply describes where the browser can go and download the image from and where to place them on the page. The images on a web page do not need to have come from the same website as the page itself. It may be referenced from somewhere else on the, we can say, source or destination system. Hyperlink is the another terminology. Hyperlink can be understood as the access points to other resources of the same or different websites. So it establishes a connections between two documents as well. Okay, we can connect with more than one web pages in a website. And underlined words, phrases or graphics on a web page that transfers the readers to another or additional informations on the internet, that is called hypertext or link. Then W3C stands for World Wide Web Consortium, is an international organization comprising of full-time staff, member organizations and the public for the development of web standards. So W3C consortium, or we can say organization, is responsible for the standardization of internet, its protocols and the functionality. The main aim of W3C community is to streamline the development of the open standards for the web. The mission of W3C is to shape the web to its full potentials. W3C is also known as one of the main standard body for HTTP and HTML. So this body defines the rules and regulations for the standard protocols and mechanisms used for internet or network services. DNS stands for Domain Name System. DNS is used to provide a mapping between the name of the requested website and its IP address. Generally, we know that the user is habituated to remember the names, but whenever we ask a person or request a person to remember the numbers, more than 5 numbers, then it becomes very difficult to remember it. So whenever it comes to the IP address, then it is very difficult for a human beings to remember the IP address, okay, in a numbers. So what happens here is that the mechanism is developed through which it becomes very easy for the users to access the website. Generally, the website is accessed using the IP address. But we are not typing the IP address in a browser. We are simply typing the name of any website. So the domain name system is the mechanism which has solved this problem from remembering the IP address for our users. Okay, so through that, users is simply allowed to remember the website name, and through which it can, or he or she can access the websites through the browser. When the user types a domain name into the web browser, the browser needs to translate that domain name into the IP address. It does this by looking up the domain name or subdomain name in a directory called the domain name system or DNS. It is the IP address which will be used to locate the requested resource on the web. The mapping of the URL and the IP address of a website is usually built during the registration of the domain name. Your ISP's DNS needs to synchronize itself with all of the other DNS servers around the world so that it always contains the latest information on the domain names in use and which IP address they corresponds to. This synchronization is happening around the clock, 24/7. DNS registrar. So it is a part of DNS. It is an entity that is authorized to facilitate the buying and selling of domain names. They are responsible for mapping IP address and domain names. So this is the entity which registers domain names with a particular IP address. For example, are the GoDaddy, HotGator, Bluehost and Domain.com. The database of IP addresses and domain names is managed by domain registries like VeriSign and Public Interest Registry. They manage the top level domains, which refers to the domains that ends in .com, .net and .org. Then name servers. These are physical servers that hold information about IP address and related domain names or URLs. They are the foundational units of DNS. So name servers are the foundational units of DNS. When a user searches for a www.baou.edu.in on the internet, the DNS servers looks up for an IP address linked to this domain and renders the requested website on the browser to the user. Web server. When you request a web page from a website on the internet, that page is delivered to you by a web server. It is the computer that is attached to the internet that contains your web pages or websites, we can say, and sends them over the internet to anyone who requests them. In the same way that connecting to your computer or network directly to the internet is impractical, so is hosting your own website on your own network. So web server is very important to host your website, and through your web servers the website is going to be accessible by the people across the globe. A web server needs to be accessible 24 hours a day and to have a high-speed reliable connections to the internet. For these reasons, web servers are normally hosted by an ISP at their own premises. The ISP that provides a web service to host your website doesn't necessarily need to be ISP that provides the internet connections to you or your company. Now, there are various features of a web servers which we can categorize as storing web pages. As you already know that web servers are responsible for servicing the user's request in the form of web pages. So we can say that it stores the web pages in the form of collection of websites. Then it's serving web pages to users. Of course, as it stores web pages, whenever a user requests for a particular web page, it renders the requested web page to the user based on certain requesting parameter. Then managing website traffic. Of course, web server is bundled and configured with various mechanisms and protocols through which the requested web pages will be delivered to the user with a quick reply. Okay, so there will be a minimum or less time in responding to a particular query. Securing websites. So using the certain security mechanism, okay, in the form of firewalls, in the form of secure protocols, the web server provides various security mechanisms, okay, from the unauthenticated users, or we can say the users who are not intended to use a particular kind of data from the particular website or domain. Logging website activity. It also maintains a logs of each and every activity happening over the network through which a web server is communicating. So whenever a user enters to a particular website and it logs out from a particular website, during this period, whatever a user has done, that is going to be logged in, or the log entries is going to be made in a, we can say, server. So these are the various features which is provided by the web servers, and that makes it more, we can say, potential and effective. Popular web servers, if you have to talk, are the Apache, Nginx, IIS, Tomcat and JBoss. Web servers and web browsing working. If you have to learn it or understand through the diagrammatically, then this image quickly says that web server is there and web browser is there. Okay, so whenever we want to access any website or any web resources over a network using the browsers, we will enter the URL of that website and press, or we will fire the request using pressing a enter key. request goes to the particular server or web server where this website is hosted. It will fetch the request, process the data, form the response, and send the response back to the client in the form of web page. That is what the whole mechanism of web server and web browsing working. Distributed web servers. Okay, we have already discussed web server. So simply web server is responsible for storing the websites in the form of web pages and serving the response back to the client in the form of web pages. Now the terminology added is distributed. That means it is scattered across the globe. A distributed web server is a web server distributed across different geographical boundaries across the world to enhance the speed of request-response communication. It comprises multiple web servers holding various informations by the use of enhanced domain name service platform. As we can see in the image, users are there connected with the internet service and they are going to access the data through various web servers distributed across the world geographically in the form of site 1, site 2. The balancing of load of replicated document that are stored in different geographical location among different server is always point of concern and handled with care. The promptness of handling request response traffic displays the efficiency of distributed web servers. A good performance of distributed web servers can be enhanced or achieved by technique of object replication. Replication is simply keeping a copy of one object to another place, a nearby place. So if sometimes if one server is not able to serve the request, it will be immediately transferred to the nearby servers and through where the request will be served to the users without the knowledge of users. Distributed web server environment is most reasonable and dynamic against any failure in hardware or software. Cookies. So cookies are very important concept in today's environment. Or we can say simply in a technical terms, it is a part of session mechanism, session handling. So what is session? So simply session is a mechanism which stores data, which stores users' activity from where he logs in till logs out. So throughout this period, whatever activity user has carried out on a particular website, it is going to be recorded or stored in the form of certain mechanisms. So cookie is a one way to manage such kind of data. It is a technique in a web-based environment of web-based applications through which user is going to be tracked. A web server transmits certain message to a web browser so that the web browser or web server can monitor the user's activity on a particular website. The message are known as cookie. Cookie is having a limited size. Okay. It is a small piece of information that a website stores on your computer and uses it at the time of your iteration on the website. So how many times you are accessing that website once you logged in, that is going to be tracked and stored. When you visit the website again, your browser sends information back to the site. Cookies can not read your hard drive to find out information about you. However, any personal information that you have given to a website, including credit or debit card information, will most likely be stored in cookie unless you have turned off the cookie, a 382 privacy. Okay, so it is very important that you should not provide such kind of sensitive data over a network. Otherwise, it is going to be stored in a cookie unless it is turned off. The cookie will only contain information that you freely provide to a website. So general information is, we can say there is no issue if you are providing such kind of information, but sensitive information you should not provide until and unless you are sure regarding the security of such kind of information. Do not give your credentials, as we already said. To use cookie, for example, if you log in to a XYZ website and tick the remember me box, the website stores an identifier in a cookie on your computer so that you do not require to log in again. This is the standard mechanism for identifying the returning visitors to the site. Cookie. There are different types of cookies. Session cookies, permanent cookies, and third-party cookies. Session cookies are all dealing with what? Online. Online cart item information is stored for only a specific period of time, and once the browser is closed, it gets expired. As I told you, that it is started once user logs in and till the user logs out. Once the user logs out, this cookie is going to be deleted. So that is called session cookies. Permanent cookies. It remembers the login ID and passwords to save the typing time of the user if the user has opted it, and information is stored in a permanently even when the browser is closed. It is recommended to delete these types of cookies after a specific duration. Okay, otherwise there may be, we can say, a possibility that someone can access it and you may suffer from a loss of data. Third-party cookies. Installed by third parties for collecting certain informations, maybe for beneficial investigation or hacking. So these are various types of cookies. Domain. While every computer has their or its own unique address, every user using the internet has a unique address called domain. A domain recognizes one or more IP addresses. An example of a domain is weather.com and is part of the URL such as https://www.weather.com. The standard top-level domains are .com stands for commercial businesses, .education is for .edu, .gov stands for government, .mil stands for military, .net for stands network, and .org stands for organizations, that is not-profit organizations. So these are various top-level domains used by various industry peoples for their websites. There are additional top-level domains that are now recognized on the internet. They includes Aero, that is for air transport industry, Biz for businesses, Coops for cooperatives, Info for unrestricted use, Museums for museums, Pro for accountants, lawyers, physicians and other professionals, TV for televisions. Some countries use subdomains or geographical domains as part of their address. And academic institutions such as Oxford University in the United Kingdom can use ac.uk. An example of a URL with this domain is www.ox.ac.uk. So these are the, we can say, domains with a country-specific subdomains. Subdomains. Subdomain is a prefix added to the domain name to separate a section of your website. Site owners primarily use subdomains to manage extensive sections that requires their own content hierarchy, such as online stores, blogs, job boards, or we can say support platforms. Various examples are there of subdomains. If you have to talk about, let's say, a Facebook. Facebook is crafted a distinct interface for its mobile users in the form of m.facebook.com. So it is what? A subdomain. Yahoo curates UK related news using uk.yahoo.com and US related news using us.yahoo.com. So it is also having an example of subdomains. Amazon also created a subdomains for their Amazon Smile initiatives. Whenever a user shops on smile.amazon.com, Amazon donates 0.5% of eligible purchase to charity. So for such various kinds of purposes, organizations are creating subdomains for the benefit of the society, for the benefit of their organization, or for the benefit of their customers as well, to simplify their interest. Thank you very much. In these sessions, we have discussed various terminologies related with internet. It may be www, it may be HTTP, it may be HTML, it may be ISP, it may be any protocol or web server, or we can say website, web pages, or we can say domain, subdomain, DNS, everything. which are very important to deal with a network environment. Thank you very much.